Welcome into the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. It's Christmas Eve. You may be sitting there right now expecting a package. You may be cursing and swearing at Amazon. You may be cursing and swearing at the U.S. Postal Service. And you may be saying, where is my package? That is not the worst thing that's going to happen to you today. It could be something worse with a package. I'm just saying. I'm here today to probably maybe be the instrument of your worst nightmare. And I'm going to do that today with my guest. My guest today is Professor Mitchel P. Roth. He's got a wonderful book out there today, which I had the privilege of reading this weekend, called Murder by Mail, A Global History of the Letter Bomb. Hopefully you don't get one of those for Christmas. I'm just saying. Actually, this book is incredibly gripping. It's a wonderful book which unfolds the gripping history of weaponized mail, which may be an odd thing to talk about on Christmas Eve, but hey, we're going to do it anyways. And it is fascinating. You know, we think about how safe our mail system is, or at least the perceived safety of the mail. But when you stop and think about it, and you stop and think about the history of the mail system worldwide, from the beginning of the mail system to now, we have had some pretty hairy incidents. And I want to talk to Professor Roth today about some of those incidents. And I want to point you towards that book and get you towards that book, which, by the way, we have a link in the description of this program so that you can go out and get this book, because it is a fascinating book. Let me tell you a little bit about Professor Roth before we bring him in. He's a professor of criminal justice and criminology at Sam Houston State University in Texas. He's also authored many different books besides the one we're going to talk about today. Some of the ones include The Man with the Killer Smile. By the way, over 30 books in 6 different languages, including The Man with the Killer Smile, The Life and Crimes of a Serial Mass Murderer, Power on the Inside, A Global History of Prison Gangs, Fire in the Big House, America's Deadliest Prison Disaster, Convict Cowboys, The Untold History of the Texas Prison Rodeo, An Eye for an Eye, A Global History of Crime and Punishment, also available in Chinese, Turkish, Croatian, and English. And in 2020, he was awarded the Frederick Milton Thrasher Award for Excellence in Gang Research. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome in. It's my honor and privilege, Professor Mitchel P. Roth. Professor Roth, thank you so much for being on True Crime Tuesday. It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I got to, first of all, tip my cap to you. This book is enthralling from beginning to end. Murder by Mail, A Global History of the Letter Bomb. And it grips you at the beginning. It just kind of grips you and it brings you in. And first of all, I have to give you kudos for the fact that it is descriptive from the moment you learn about the first letter bomb to the moment you get off this thrill ride and learn about the very last piece of mail, even if it has to do with email. You're like, oh my God, are we horrible to each other? Why are we so horrible to each other? First of all, Professor Roth, why aren't we better to each other?
Well, the human species is not wired that way. You know, we're kind of wired for violence, and we're wired for, learning new technologies. When you think about technologies, the newest technologies are usually learned by the criminals. Whether it be the telegraph or whether it be the internet, they're the ones that use it first. And I guess you could say it's about the mail system, the same thing. Probably the earliest group to recognize it as perhaps a way to get a point across were the suffragettes in England in the years before World War I. They were kind of the original mail bombers. And in fact, the IRA was supposedly inspired by some of their activities. They never really killed anybody, but they caused a lot of fear and mayhem and made a lot of mail late. And they destroyed a lot of mail. But ultimately, like most terrorism, usually sets back the cause more than, helps the cause. So, they probably would have gotten the right to vote earlier if they hadn't gone on this bombing spree.
Now, I want to backtrack a little bit here first, because, it's interesting you bring that up. And that was one of the things I wanted to bring up with you was the fact that suffragettes in England were the first ones to really figure out that, hey, you know what? We put a bomb in a letter and we send it. That's going to make an impact.
Well, what they were doing was using more incendiary devices. They really weren't that sophisticated yet, as far as putting a bomb in the letter. They were more likely to put some type of incendiary device in a package rather than a letter, because I use the word letter bomb kind of very freely, but I'm talking about package bombs, parcel bombs, what they called back then infernal devices, infernal machines, and so they really weren't at the cusp of that type of bombing. But again, they did learn how to make packages where there was shrapnel involved. People were injured, but again, the thing is that just like future mail bombers, the people that usually were targeted were not usually the victims. It was usually people working in the postal services, people nearby, children, family members. But rarely did they get the person that they were aiming for. Except the Unabomber, he was pretty good at it.
Yeah, he was. Now, with that first infernal device that the suffragettes were using, how crude was it? What exactly were they using in these devices?
Well, back then, they had these postal boxes, and what they would do is they would put these. They would put, I guess, inflammable materials inside the mailbox to burn all the mail, rather than send it to a specific person. Then they started sending packages or delivering packages with bombs to specific addresses. Quite often it was people in government or members of the royal family, anybody of that stature. But for the most part, up until about World War One, they did mostly property damage, I would say.
Okay.
I would say, rather than human damage. People were injured, but the postal system at that time too was still in its development stages, even in the early 1900s. So they really weren't the pioneers in making letter bombs, but the pioneers in using the mail as a form of terrorism, I should say, instilling fear. And the thing is back then people relied on the mail to, keep in touch with each other. And this was a big deal that, when the mail stopped and people feared about opening the mail, opening boxes and that sort of thing. So, for the most part, they were more bark than bite, I would say, like a lot of terrorist groups. But it's surprising that, when you consider gender, that women were part of the first group to actually use, mail bombs. And they should be proud of that.
They should be, yeah. Now, let me ask you, I want to backtrack again one more time here and ask you this. What gets you inspired to write about this particular subject? What gets you
it's kind of strange how I pick any subject. Well, first of all, I pick a subject no one's ever written a book about. And I've seen that there's tons of books like on chemical bombs and machine guns and IEDs and things like that, but nothing really that, followed the continuum of murder by mail. And even though that title has been used by a lot of authors for their books, none of them is related to what I've done. And so my last book that I wrote for Reaction Books in London was called Power on the Inside: A Global History of Prison Gangs, and that was very well received. And they said, well, what do you have for another topic? And they like my global histories. I'm on my fourth one right now. So I had to come up with a topic. So I gave them 2 or 3 topics. And I thought, well, maybe the mail bomb. And how about the letter bomb? And so I wrote a prospectus on it. And they liked it. And thus it was born,
And when you're thinking of letter bomb, are you thinking, well, maybe there's just a few examples out there? Are you knowing that there's as much out there as there is?
Well, I had no clue. I mean, I knew of a handful, but I suspected that if I did my research, and as a historian, I'm very good at researching, whether it's searching newspapers, secondary and primary materials, and so I started out by looking at the history of dynamite and of explosives, and to lead me to when they would first be used, in the postal service. And I started searching for accounts in newspapers around the world. Because it's easy; they're all digitized now, so I can look at 1880, and I can put in infernal machine or mail bomb, and usually find something. So I did that kind of on a yearly basis, and you know, I'm getting them from Australia, getting them from Ceylon. Every continent I found them, and basically almost every secret service around the world has used it at one time or another to get opponents of the government. During apartheid, the South African police used it against anti-apartheid people in other countries, and it's even being used by the Russian Secret Service against Ukraine. So, it is being used. But again, it's really hard to, hide the fact in the postal system that there's a mail bomb. They have a lot of prevention strategies and things like that. So I think the mail bombs are more likely to contain some type of I guess, biological weapon, like anthrax or something like that, which was used. And that's kind of outside the purview of my book because it's not an explosive, but I do mention it. For the most part, it's packages that, really are the containers for mail bombs these days. And the thing is that you have a lot of different services besides the postal service that can deliver these. You've got FedEx and USPS and everything else. So you have a lot of delivery options, and then you have the option of just delivering it yourself.
Yeah.
Which has been done, where someone who had picked some addresses out for some reason or another, and they dropped them off themselves. And the most recent case I can think of was involving a guy named Mark Condit in Austin, Texas. And the problem with that is he killed himself before he could explain why he was doing it. It made no sense because he was targeting minorities mainly, but whether he had any ideological or political motives was never known because he blew himself in the car when the cops stopped him. And even a lot of other people have done it. They're kind of have psychopathy issues, where they're not thinking in the same realm as everybody else. And but for the most part, people that are revenge oriented, people that are paranoid, people that or have romantic issues, maybe in a love triangle. These are where letter bombs are more likely to be used, not in political, ideological, circumstances. Occasionally you'll have a letter bomb war between two political factions, like the Israelis and Black September in the 1970s. Both of them used them very effectively. But the bottom line is that when you use it, you're typically not going to kill someone. You're just going to blow off usually their left hand, because that's the hand that holds the package while the right hand opens it. And most of the blast is on the upper part of your body. But unfortunately, if you have people there looking over your shoulder for a Christmas gift, and you say, "Oh, what did Grandma send us?" and it's going to have collateral damage.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
So you can't necessarily control who gets it. Quite often, it's the secretary opening the box for the boss or something like that. Even today, though, when I get a package from somebody I'm not real sure of, I open it from the bottom.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not paranoid or anything like that. And I don't think there's that many people that would go to the trouble to do that. They could just shoot me.
After reading your book, I've now become paranoid. I'm going to start opening my mail in a whole different way. And I have you to thank for it. I honestly am thanking you for it, because I now I've now rethought maybe if I should stop taking mail from
you
listeners.
speak to a lot of people. You could be a target. Radio people have been targeted, for assassination on more than one occasion.
It's, I also want to address the whole political thing because, reading your book got me thinking about, you talk about at the end of the book, different types of bombs. And there's actually a newer example of different delivery systems, pager bombs now, pager bombs in the Middle East. I wanted to...
As soon as that case in Lebanon occurred, I got all these calls from British newspapers asking me to weigh in on that because the book came out in England first, trying to make some type of parallels or comparisons. And, as deadly as it was, or, it really caused a lot of serious injuries more than a lot of deaths. It was pretty horrific, but pretty brilliant.
Yeah.
And, surprisingly, there's been letter bomb campaigns where they try to attempt to do something else on a mass level, sending out like 30 or 40 at one time. But the whole trick is if you're sending them to different people in different locations, getting them all there at the same time. Because, if one gets there early, the post office is going to look at the rest of the mail. But the surprising thing is the main reason that the bombs didn't get to their targets quite often is they didn't put enough postage on the bombs to begin with. And that happened in 1919 with the May Day plot by the anarchists.
Yeah.
No one was killed or injured by it. Maybe somebody working in a post office, but didn't quite go off as planned. So the Israelis were thinking, I think, in similar fashion. They were worried that they'd been compromised on this plan, and they went with it sooner than they wanted to. And it was. A pretty amazing story. And, people are always thinking of new plans. You've got to, have an imagination. When you're a criminal, you have to have imagination. When you're in law enforcement, criminal justice, counterterrorism. And that's the problem is you don't get a lot of people drawn to these jobs that have imaginations. You should be hiring screenwriters or, people, like that. I found a book. I'm a book collector, and I found this book that came out in the 60s, and it was a picture of the Twin Towers in New York. It shows an airplane flying towards it, and there's a Chinese, soldier kind of, in the Maoist outfit pointing at it. And, obviously, it's aiming for the Twin Towers. So, here you have a novelist who thought of that, and no one thought of that in the CIA or the FBI or this as a, kind of a way of transporting, death. And so, or Black Sunday, where they have a blimp at the Super Bowl blowing up or shooting people.
Right.
So, there's often a failure of imagination when it comes to policing and counterterrorism. And often, too, they rely on luck a lot of times.
You're right about that. There is a lack of imagination when it comes to counterterrorism. Trying to avoid a lot of these plots and trying to defend us against a lot of these plots. And it doesn't take much, I think we're finding out, to stir up a lot of these plots and to enact a lot of these plots against the populace at large.
Well, our society is full of soft targets.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're, a foreign power or just some local, random person, it's easy to be a suicide bomber. It's easy to put a bomb somewhere. And what's surprising, it doesn't happen more often. Same thing with mass shootings. While we lead the world in mass shootings, I'm surprised that we don't have more,
right.
With over 300 million guns in the country.
Yeah.
So, what does that say? Is it a compliment to our civility? Probably not. Maybe it shows that there's not a lot of people with lack of impulse control. And that's where you get into psychopathy. There is a certain individual that would resort to that type of violence.
Well, this is a good point for us to make that transition now into the psychology of the letter bomb or the mail bomb, because it's an interesting mind that decides I'm going to take an explosive, put it into the mail, and let the mail do the work for me? Because it's not a brave mind, is it, that decides I'm going to do it this way, or I'm going to go after a target this way. What's the makeup or the mindset of a person that decides I'm going to use the mail to carry out that job for me?
Well, it's very similar to a sniper, who has a certain amount of distance from the object that they're targeting. And it's depersonalized. It's kind of as cowardly as you can be, but it's probably that multiplied, by 10 or whatever, using a mail bomb. I think some people that make mail bombs just like to blow up stuff, or they'd like to test their skills at bomb making. You have, there was one bomber, I think he was called the happy face bomber, and he just set off bombs that would make a happy face on a map in different locations. And when you look at psychopathy and you look at, where you're likely to find these bombs, it's, more geographically oriented, at least in the United States, because you have, a history of in the mining areas, the equipment's there, the blasting caps and everything. So you're more likely to find it in the South. Or find it in Appalachia. These are areas, and you'll find it up in Canada, areas where you have a lot of mining going on, and you have people taking the law into their own hands. So, quite often, it's not something you're going to find like, a lot on the West Coast, for instance. There were very few cases on the West Coast, but a lot of it was in rural areas for the most part. And, that's kind of surprising, but it just, like if you look at the Hatfields and McCoys, and if you look at the feuds that people have, it was often used, in the case of trying to settle a feud with somebody. Again, there were cases in Canada. But, getting back to your question about the psychopathy of people that use it, you have to take each one separately. You have to look at each one separately. And quite often, if you take each one separately, you'll find that they usually have a very similar backstory. It's kind of like studying serial murder, because serial bombers are very similar to serial murderers. They often have not had a great childhood. They're, socially incapable of forming relationships and things like that. If it's a man, it's often somebody who's very sexist. If it's a woman, it's usually women don't make bombs. They send poison candy and brownies in the mail, and. Really? And so they're just as deadly. They're just called the silent killers. And the same with women that are serial killers. But, there's no one size that fits all. I mean, you have, for instance, on one end of the spectrum, you have Ted Kaczynski, who was this brilliant PhD in math. And, he went off the deep end. But if you look at his backstory, he never was able to form any attachment like to his mother and all of that, because he was sick as a baby and they couldn't be held right away. And, there's some things like that that perhaps might explain some of that. His brother had some issues as well, but, nothing like that. In fact, pretty much him and the brother and his sister-in-law, his wife turned him in. But you have him at the one extreme, and then at the other extreme, you have someone like Cesar Sayoc, the MAGA bomber down in Florida. This is a guy that's a retired stripper. He aged out of the stripping business, and so he's living in his van plastered with Trump symbols and rifle scopes on pictures of Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton and that sort of thing. Not exactly keeping a low profile, and he's making the bombs in his van. So you have that at the lower end of it, and he sent out like over 20 bombs, to your typical anti-democratic targets, George Soros and Hillary and Schmillery and, et cetera, et cetera. None of them exploded. And he said he didn't make them, so that they would explode, but they were potentially deadly. But, here you have two extremes, and I really wouldn't, want to suggest that I can make any type of assumption about, what similarities they have. Basically, these are people with gripes. This guy had no nowhere to turn after he stopped stripping. And when he found Trump, he found a reason for living. And everything he did was he'd go to the demonstrations, and everything was everything for Trump. I mean, he was brainwashed. Whereas Kaczynski, he's targeting the industrial complex and the he's an environmentalist to a great extent. Even his bombs are environmentally sound. He makes his own parts and everything from wood and all the scraps. And yet you can find people, other people that copied. He inspired other bombers, Ted Kaczynski, in other countries. So, for some people, he's inspirational, and it's hard to explain. A lot of people used bombs for extortion schemes. And as I mentioned at the end of the book, now instead of doing that type of extortion, now it's much easier to do what's called a denial of service, a DOS. And, basically threaten someone that has a business that you're going to keep them off the internet unless they pay them, some type of money. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot easier doing that than, going over to like one of the grocery chains in England and threatening them, if they don't take this product off the shelf or put this product on the shelf. But, a lot of times people are impacted by what they read or hear in the news. And with saturation media coverage these days, a lot of people get the ideas that way. I don't think people that read this book will get the idea to go ahead and do it. I don't think, letter bombers and mail bombers are particularly big readers. Not that anybody is reading anymore, at least in the United States, or at least in Texas, I should say. But it's a wacky way of killing somebody, and some of the cases were almost laughable. Where you have kids in high school sending one to a teacher, and you have someone that's been. A guy that's coming back he's in Vietnam sending bombs to his wife, at home.
Yeah.
This was during the Vietnam War. Apparently he thought she was seeing somebody on the side. So, a lot of it is based on paranoia. And of course, the more materials that come out, like the anarchist cookbook and things like that, the more, people get ideas on how they can do that. And, and one of the things, you got to look at it in the thousands of cases, over the last 150 years, probably thousands of cases. But you don't hear about them as most of them are failures. And, I think the most concern the Postal Service is about bombs being placed in the mail on airplanes. Because that is, killed, in several cases, blown up entire airplanes, like a Swiss Air with 47 people, where Black September was trying to kill some Israelis that were supposed to be on the plane. It was like, I think, it wasn't an El Al flight. But it's a very, surreptitious way of getting, to somebody. And whenever there's a plane crash, even today, the Postal Service usually has someone go out to the site, because most planes carry mail, to see if there's any type of, residual materials, from that was in the mail.
That's a very interesting fact that you bring up in the book. The fact that the post office does go out to check that out. The fact that, and it's a very alarming fact, that the fact that at any time there could be some sort of mail bomb aboard a plane. I mean, that. Yeah. That. Well,
TSA is supposed to keep us safe, but I fly enough to realize that I'm not necessarily putting my life in their hands. I just want to get somewhere, and if I get blown up, so be it. But the planes are built pretty well, at least in the storage compartments and things like that. The biggest problem is when you have somebody like the underwear bomber or the shoe bomber, where they try and bring a liquid on the plane or whatever. They ruin it for everybody, forever. You can't bring a soda on a plane, that
Right.
you've purchased outside, all that nonsense. But I completely believe that if someone wanted to blow up a plane, that there's ways to get it done. There was one attempt by some Yemenis terrorists to send printer cartridges through the mail on a lot of Israeli planes, and they were supposed to blow up at one time, but the plot was found out before they could carry it out. But since 9/11, the airplane gets a lot of focus now as far as security goes. But again, you saw that woman a couple of weeks ago who just went on an airplane and, through security and all of that, and here they are taking a piece of meat out of my luggage because I'm trying to take it between countries, and she gets through.
Which that thing is still going on. I mean, she's still, if I remember right, and we're talking about the woman who was the stowaway between here in Paris, I believe, right? And she's
I think she tried to do it again, didn't she?
Yeah, she tried to do it on the return flight.
I think they've got to put some chains on her.
Oh. And isn't she a Russian national or something?
Yeah, I think she is. I think, or maybe has dual citizenship or something.
Dual citizenship.
She seems kind of, I think she's maybe married to some lucky American, but and he's probably glad that she's gone. But in any case, you look at how safe flying is and how rare anything ever happens on a plane,
right?
Unless it's a Boeing. And the problem is that the people that work on the planes don't have a sense of humor about stuff like that.
Right? They don't know.
I remember soon after that, I asked one of the stewardesses. I said, "Is this one of the, is this door bolted properly?" As I was sitting near a door, and she kind of looked at me with, stink eye, gave me the stink eye, when I said that. But there's so many other, ways of, like using a car, an IED. Those are, much easier to do. I mean, if you really think about it, letter bombs and mail bombs are kind of quaint compared to, everything else that goes on in the world as far as, murder, mass shootings and things like that. I mean, it's hard the only way you really find out about it is if you read deeply into, a topic. I read a lot of newspapers, and I'm an inveterate newspaper article clipper because I'm usually working on books and stuff like that. And, that's how I found out the Ukrainian situation with the Russians. But it works in some cases, and sometimes it doesn't.
Let's do this. Let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about certain substances and over time how those substances in mail bombs have changed and how we've gotten more technically let's put it this way, adept, right, at blowing people up. And I want to talk about a few different cases throughout the years that have kind of stunned our public when it comes to letter bombs and mail bombs. And one quick little story for you, Professor, before we go to break. You were talking about bolting on, making sure the door was bolted on. I'll drop one for you. I know you have a little bit of a morbid sense of humor. I do too.
Yeah.
In 1988, I was dropping a friend off at the La Crosse airport, La Crosse, Wisconsin. And we were standing at the x-ray machine. This is before, of course, 9/11 and all that other stuff. And I didn't know, of course, I'm a young kid at this point. I'm all of 18 years old. I didn't know it was a faux pas to not point something out on a scanner. This is, they had the standby scanners. You could put something on a belt and it would go through like your bags. And a friend was putting a carry-on bag on, and she put her carry-on bag, and I was pointing at the bag as it was going through the scanner, and I'm looking at the screen, and I went, "Oh, look, a bomb!" And I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know you didn't do that in front of a security person.
Yeah.
And they looked at me very seriously and said, "You don't ever say that."
You're right.
And I
No, and
went,
even today, it's
okay.
even worse.
Yeah.
If you mention that,
Yeah, yeah.
it was people, especially the Karens and everybody, they instantly react to things that just kind of tick them off.
Luckily, I had a very understanding person knowing that I was telling a joke, but at that
Yeah,
point, I didn't
yeah,
know it wasn't funny. So,
yeah.
yeah.
TSA is not known for its sense of humor.
Yeah. Back then, it was just a screener. It wasn't.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I learned my lesson in 1988 not to ever joke about stuff like that. So there you go. So we'll take a break right now.
Okay.
The book is Murder by Mail: A Global History of the Letter Bomb. Excellent book, folks. We have a link in the description of this program. Go get a copy of it. You may think there's only a few examples through history. What is the number, Professor? Is it like 580 some examples of letter bombs, mail bombs throughout history?
I would say it's probably closer to thousands.
Wow.
Because you got the hundreds of billions of letters and packages have been sent over the years, and it's a very minute number of those.
That's amazing.
And in many cases too, we don't even know if letter bomb got through or was caught before it went and it wasn't recorded. Not every one of them is reported.
That's amazing. It's amazing how cruel and unusual we are to people. I mean, we like to think love and light and we're all so nice to each other. We're not. We're animals. But when we come back, we'll talk to Professor Roth about the history of, and there it is right there if you're watching on video, Murder by Mail. There's the book right there. We'll talk about the history of explosives and how we've gotten more cruel and more unusual with how we blow people up. That's coming up next on the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. Welcome back to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm Tim Dennis. With me is Professor Mitchel P. Roth. The book is Murder by Mail: A Global History of the Letter Bomb. And when we left you, I kind of teased that we were going to talk a little bit about explosives and the history thereof. Professor, I want to lead this in by talking a little bit about a peace-loving fella who we think is at least a peace-loving fella, who discovered dynamite. Tell us a little bit about Alfred Nobel and why he wasn't such a peace-loving fella.
Well, he was very. It's interesting that we have the Nobel Peace Prize Award, named after the person who invented dynamite, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, but maybe it should have been the Nobel Peace Prize. But he was able to, find a way of stabilizing nitroglycerin in an explosive and really set the scene for, future mail bombs and package bombs. Because before that, you really didn't have a lot of options, using nitroglycerin, as a bombing mechanism. Because it was unstable. Mm-hmm. And with dynamite, there were other discoveries in explosives that, for instance, where you could set a bomb off by having two plates inside an envelope, where they kind of the friction between the two of them with some dynamite could set off an explosion. Mm-hmm. And so that was a pretty common way of doing it. Just, finding some way to get it through the mail system without attracting attention. Of course, the timer clocks, were ubiquitous in a lot of these. But a lot of it was basically very imaginative, finding ways to put the bomb with the device that sets off the explosive in a smallest container that they can, or skinny one, and where they can have it manipulated so that when it's opened that it explodes. And as I said, a lot of it deals with friction. The IRA experimented with having acid bombs.
Yeah.
In another way, and using balloons, balloon type devices to kill people. But For the most part, once, someone discovered a way of doing it, then, the authorities were onto it, and, then they had to come up with something else. But, the bottom line is that explosives are pretty easy to find now in the mail systems, just because of, the protection protocol that they often have. They, usually will not go through. And, you're kind of limited when it comes to explosives, what you can send through the mail, because you want it to be small, you want it to be, not cumbersome, not to draw any type of attention. One way to do that is with a book bombs.
Yeah. Yep.
And, of course, hollowing out a book, people have done that for ages for, whether to hide drugs or whatever. But books have been used as devices to send to be opened and, and blow up somebody. And they've worked occasionally. There a couple of cases were used in Great Britain during the period where the Israeli state was being, coming to fruition, when they were going after officers who had killed Jewish terrorists or extremists or whatever, and they would target them in England. And letter bombs were very effective, sending them to embassies and things like that, where there's more anonymity sometimes. But there's so many of them were sent, in fact, to the British royal family. It's surprising that, only one came close to getting Princess Diana, because usually they never get that far. But it didn't. So, that's the point. It's pretty safe. And then you have people like there was this one character that found some bombs, but he had made the bombs, and he was using it to get a raise at work by becoming a hero, kind of. And it's kind of like the fireman who's an arsonist, and he puts out the fire, to be a hero. These things happen. But the bottom line is that the cases that interested me the most were like the Roy Moody case, where he was going after this guy was really paranoid, a really awful human being. He ended up being the oldest person ever executed in America too. He was in his 80s when he was executed, I think in the 1990s. But he targeted a couple of lawyers and judges down in, I think, Alabama. Because they wouldn't allow him to apply to law school. They wouldn't wipe his record clean, and so decided to kill them. And he was successful, killed a couple of them. And but Leroy Moody was his name. Mm-hmm. And of course, the Unabomber inspired a number of people. You have the Austrian Unabomber, Franz Fuchs, for instance, who was inspired. And this guy was a neo-Nazi, but he was inspired on using bombs to get his message across. And then you have the Mexican Unabombers, who were environmentally oriented. They were kind of inspired by Kaczynski and by Edward Abbey, the great environmentalist who wrote Desert Solitaire. And he talked about the using explosives and things like that to attack the establishment. But I'm trying to think of there were so many of them, and they begin to kind of blend in with each other. They begin to kind of, Bob did this, John did this, and all of that. And unfortunately, in a book this size, you're limited on, how many words you can use in a book and how long it can be. So, I could have gone into much more detail on a lot of these, but I had to cut a lot out and, just stick to particular cases.
I find the fact that the technology for the mail bomb got smaller and smaller is interesting. You went from dynamite, you got to C4 in what was it, Vietnam era in the 60s or so, and then eventually you get to something as small as Semtex, which is literally just paper thin, right?
Yeah.
And that was more, that was the Japanese that used Semtex, wasn't it, or was it the Middle Eastern? bombings that used some text.
I think it was probably the Middle Eastern, because they had some real master bombers, working for the Black September and the PFLP, Palestinian Front for Liberation of Palestine. They had very good master bomb makers,
Yeah.
and the Israelis figured out who they were. What's interesting too is using letter bombs to try and stop a bomb program, where you had after World War II, you had some German scientists who worked on the V1 project,
Yes.
being hired in Egypt to build weapons, of mass destruction to go after Israel. And so Israel went after them with a bombing campaign that really thwarted, that attempt to make bombs and stuff. And soon chased them out of Egypt and got them back to Germany.
Yeah, and again, that talk about fighting fire with fire. That whole thing is fascinating as well. And again, I encourage people to go to the book and read that in the book. The book is Murder by Mail: A Global History of the Letter Bomb. Professor, as we start to wrap things up here, I want to ask you this. And again, you told me something about before we started taping here today about as you're talking to your students in your class, you'd mentioned, I know what I was going to ask you. Before we get to that part, I want to ask you one thing about the book in itself. There's a case in the book where you talk about in Lexington, Kentucky. We were talking about dynamite earlier. You mentioned in the book that dynamite is easy to get, and it's the case of Jack Daniel.
Yeah.
And it's in the case they cite dynamite is easy to get. They're talking about bootleggers. Is that Jack Daniel the same Jack Daniel as Jack Daniel's whiskey? It isn't.
No, it's not.
Okay,
I guess it became a popular name there after the birth of Jack Daniels.
Okay. Because
it's kind of, I've had lots of students that were Davy Crockett, believe it or not.
Really?
And Daniel Boone, and I'm wondering, God, no Ted Kaczynski's though.
No Ted Kaczynski's. Okay.
Yeah.
What's interesting is when you read the story of Jack Daniel in the book. I mean, that poor Jack Daniel. I mean, he was devastated by explosives, of course. And again, you could read it in the book, but you think to yourself, is this the same Jack Daniel that's on the bottle?
Yeah.
Right. But what coincidence? There's a Jack Daniel in Lexington, Kentucky, which of course is the same place where it's distilled. And you think that poor guy can't be the same one that's on the bottle, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a double whammy for him.
Right. But you're mentioning when we were talking before the show, you're talking about an interesting fact about where you teach as opposed to where it's located. Can you tell us a little bit about that story? Because I found it fascinating that you teach, and we're talking about kind of macabre subjects here.
Near the death house in Huntsville.
Yeah.
Well, Sam Houston State University, has one of the earliest criminal justice PhD programs, and we are like 2 blocks from where the chamber is. In fact, every professor has probably taken their students on a tour, and they've gone into the death house and, leaned on the lethal injection bed and that sort of thing. But on top of that, my last book that I wrote, Man with the Killer Smile, he was a mass murderer who had killed 2 of his wives and 11 children over a 7-year period. And when he was executed in 1928 in Texas, he was buried like about 2 blocks behind where my office is. And there is that's where the prison cemetery for unclaimed bodies is. It's called Peckerwood Hill, is what they call it. And so, kind of surrounded by all of that. And that's one of the things I like. I'm very much interested in the death penalty and, the evolution of, the electric chair to lethal injection and all of that. But, a lot of people don't realize that there was no Texas death row before 1924 because everybody was executed in the towns where they committed the murders. But then when they got rid of hanging as a form of the execution and went to lethal injection, they had to have one spot. And so death row was created in Huntsville when they brought in the electric chair in 1924. And so that changed a lot of things.
And one of the things I didn't realize as I'm reading the book is that the penalty for a letter bomb or a mail bomb is death.
Yeah.
Even if your intended target is only maimed, like let's say you lose a couple of fingers.
Yeah, I think because it's a federal crime. For the most part, it would be a federal crime using the mail system to do this. And they'd be lucky if they did it now because Biden's, getting rid of the death sentences for all the murderers on the federal death row, except for 3. I don't know if you saw that. Saw that today.
Yeah.
So, but you never hear of a letter bomber being sentenced to death. I mean, if Ted Kaczynski wasn't sentenced to death, or Ramzi Youssef, who was the first bomber at the Twin Towers. I mean, they were both located on what was called Bombers Row at the federal facility in Colorado. And one of my favorite Ted Kaczynski stories, when he killed himself, a couple of years ago in jail, but he got something from Harvard asking him about his accomplishments over the past 50 years. It was sent out to everybody, obviously. And he started talking about, well, I've had 4 deaths, 4 life sentences and so forth. So a rare case of him showing a sense of humor, which you usually don't find with mail bombers.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
or serial killers.
They're not known for that huge sense of humor. That's for sure. But I don't know why I was so staggered by the fact that the penalty for mail bombing was death. I
think that there's more to it than that. I think if you kill somebody, that it would be a death sentence, but just using the mails. I mean, it's so infrequent, but I think what they're geared at too is making sure someone doesn't use it on an airplane.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's the scariest part of it, bringing an airplane down.
Right.
And we know Pablo Escobar, he used to put bombs on airplanes to kill people that weren't even on the plane.
Yeah. Yep.
And then you had the guy in 1955 who took a life insurance policy out on his mom and put a bomb in her luggage in the airplane and blew it up over, I think, it was in the West somewhere, Arizona or something like that. But, the death penalty is on its way out anyway. So
there's a staggering fact you put in the book as well, as far as poisons that are used or have been used. And I don't know the exact numbers, but there's between 1970 and 2000, I'm trying to remember what the years are, 2010 or something like that, the amount of poisons that have been used in letters. And it had to do with ricin, anthrax, and whatnot. And sarin. Yeah. And although the poison letter syndrome is very brief and not as much as you would think, it's staggering just between that short amount of time, how often it was done and how quickly it was done.
Well, copycats, it's the copycat syndrome. And the problem with using a biological weapon like that, or even using a chemical weapon, is the person using it can often be affected by it. And depending on where it's being sent, if there's a lot of, if it's in a lot of air and weather and that sort of thing, it dissipates. But as you saw with right after 9/11, several people did die from anthrax.
Yeah.
And, people die every year from anthrax, but it's usually taxidermists.
Right.
But, but it's it's a new tool, in the, I guess the bomber's mailbox or the killer's mailbox using different types of poisons. But again, it's very difficult using biological and chemical weapons simply for the fact of how do you get them to where you want them to go and not hurt somebody else. Right.
It's a very fascinating topic, Professor. And again, I encourage people to go out and get the book. It's if you want to, and people claim that, well, maybe it's a little macabre. It's not. It's fascinating to learn how the human mind works and how diabolical people can really be. It really is quite intriguing how people want to take
a lot of thought
apart.
goes into it, and you can imagine the person picturing, when it goes off and the glee that they have, when it does go off. Got them.
Yeah. And again, I encourage people to go get it. We have a link in the description of this program. Murder by Mail: A Global History of the Letter Bomb. Professor Mitchel P. Roth, I want to thank you so much for being on the program today.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Folks, it's time for us to lighten things up a little bit. It's time now for us to bring in Jessica Freeberg. It's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals.
It's Crayon News story time.
What happened with this dude, Christ Bearer? I heard he cut his penis off and then jumped off a balcony.
Suspect pulls gun from butt, shoots twice at Denver police.
What is your emergency?
I need help.
And what's the problem?
I'm too high.
You're too high?
Yeah.
It's that time once again, the time you've all been looking forward to. It's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals. And with that, we reach across the world, not even the ocean, not even across the Twin Cities. And once again, we bring in our co-hostess. She's incredibly talented. She's witty. She's funny. And she's easy on the eyes. And she's got 3 books out there, not to mention an incredibly interesting and fun trip out there that you need to go to. It's 30% off right now. Just use the code Darkness30 in the link listed in the description of this trip. Ladies and in this podcast, rather. Ladies and gentlemen, here she is, Jessica Freeberg. Jess, how you doing?
Good. You said a lot there, Tim. That was a big introduction.
I tried to keep it all in one little contained package here, Jess. But
I love it.
I'm getting
pro.
I'm getting older. The mental faculties don't necessarily work the way they should. I don't know.
You're like, if I don't spit it out right now, I'm not going to remember it later.
That's right. Yeah, it's I don't even take ginkgo biloba or anything. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed. You're sharp as a nail.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Did you notice I've got Snoop on a stoop on my mic here?
No, what the heck?
It's a little thing I added for the holidays. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, he's got his little ginkgo biloba in his mouth there.
I had to put my glasses on to see what it was exactly, but now I do see it, Snoop. Before it just looked like just a green hat.
Is he hard to see? I don't know. Is he?
No, it's just my eyes are old.
Oh, okay.
All
right. I don't know. You really have to focus in order to see him, I guess.
He's got a doobie in his mouth.
He does, yeah.
He's living a life, man.
He does. It's my little microphone companion. Yeah.
I love him.
You have to, again, it's one of those video features. You have to watch the video in order to see it.
I'm going to have to step it up. I need a microphone companion now.
Well, it's little things for the holiday. That's all.
See what I can come up with.
I'll keep them up through the holidays, so to speak. I don't know. That sounds bad. Sounds horrible.
I don't want to know how you're keeping Snoop up through the holidays, Tim.
Well, there's only 2 ways, Jess. One of them has to be, I'm just saying. Speaking of keeping things up to the holidays. That didn't seem right to put it that way. I know. We should jump into Dumb Crimes, Stupid Criminals here. We're starting it off with a bang, so to speak. There's a story going around. I want to start festive. We'll start festive, being where it's Tuesday. It's it's Christmas Eve, so I guess we should start festive, shouldn't we?
La 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 la, Tim. Let's go.
Right, and we should start with a warning for people out there. There's a TikTok trend out there that let's just say that the police are telling people, not only in Minnesota, but they're telling people nationwide not to do this with their cars. Have you seen people doing this with their cars, Jess? They're actually decorating them in Christmas lights and driving them around.
No. Are they using like the ones that you stick on?
Like this.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Doesn't it look cool though? I almost thought about doing this to the van.
Yes, my daughter actually wanted me to put lights, the LED lights, like she has stuck up in her room. She wants them on my car somehow, and now you're showing me this is possible.
Oh! Not only is it possible, I I thought about customizing the van. And although people would think that's creepy, me putting Christmas lights on a van and driving it around town, without kitties and puppies and candy, the whole thing just looks bizarre, doesn't it?
You're going to have your own movie next thing we know.
I am, yes. And it's not a Hallmark movie either. But the story goes like this. Cars covered in Christmas lights are fun, but police say please don't drive them. In other words, don't take them out on the road.
Right.
Because they do present certain hazards. Okay. Embracing the holiday season, Kayla Helgeson, yes, this is generated from Minnesota Public Radio, keep in mind. Okay, yeah, sure, you betcha.
Yeah.
Decked out her pickup truck this year with lots of Christmas lights, nearly 5,000 of them.
Dang, Kayla.
Yeah, I know, she went a little overboard. It's actually a TikTok trend, she said. And I was like, I've never seen this in Minnesota before. I'm going to figure out how to do this. Yeah.
I'm just like her.
Yeah. Thank you. A drive to the supermarket timed the Chaska, of course she's in Chaska, Chaska woman's truck into a local sensation. She said she was in the parking lot with the lights on when hundreds of curious people came streaming over to see it. That is a Minnesota thing, by the way. You put Christmas lights on your car and you can expect not to get out of the parking lot for hours.
Yeah, we're all going to come over and talk to you. That's how that's going to work.
Yeah, it's going to be, so how'd you do that there? Did you go to Menards? Was it a do-it-yourself? Did you look at the TikTok videos or did you go on YouTube? How did you do that, It's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're curious folks around here.
Yeah. The amount of people in 45 minutes that came through, probably about 500. It was crazy, she recalled.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Everybody was like, I've never seen this. I love it. You're into holiday spirit, It's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Captured on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, elaborate car light displays have turned up on busy avenues, parking lots, and rural highways across Minnesota this season. Not just Minnesota, but all over the nation. They're doing this now.
Right.
Yeah. Police, though, wish drivers would curb their fun to the driveway. On the road, they say cars are loaded with shiny Christmas lights, and there's safety hazards that can bring a citation to go along with your social media love.
Oops. That's not good.
Yeah, don't do that. By the way, here's a few more pictures of what people are doing here, Jess. Take a look at that.
That is wild. Yeah, they're such a distraction, though.
Isn't that something, though?
They're cool.
I'm almost thinking of doing up the minivan and taking it on a tour around the neighborhood. Just
risking it. You're going to get a ticket, Tim.
Yeah, with a sign right on the window that says free puppies. I don't know. I just, I don't know. Kyle Everson from the Minnesota Department of Public Safety said a person can turn on those lights on private property or in parking lots. That's no fun, Kyle. Come on. People can also decorate their vehicles with non-lighted accessories if they are safely secured, and if they do not cover license plates, the vehicle's lights, or obstruct the driver's view. So, in other words, don't have any fun with it. Just
leave it plain.
Yeah. It is not permitted to drive around with Christmas lights on, according to Minnesota statute. Non-emergency vehicles can have or use red, blue, white, or non-standard colored lights on highways unless authorized by the Public Safety Commissioner. Helgeson said she'll drive to local store parking lots and light the lights to entertain people. Two of her friends have done the same. Her truck has 12 streams of lights, each 65 feet long with 400 bulbs. You have to make sure you have enough power to control the lights. I put a power inverter from my cigarette lighter outlet and then ran that to a power strip. And then from the power strip, I ran light out and out through the door and then just started taping them on, she told NPR News.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
I actually, a long time ago, when my nephew was a teenager, I put a power inverter in his van. And then I put a video game system and then a subwoofer and a stereo system in his van.
So he could game while he was in the car?
So he and his buddies could game, and then we put video monitors in there. So then he and his buddies could play video games and have a booming system in his van.
Oh my gosh, just not the driver. Everyone else could be gaming, but the driver had to focus on the road.
Right. But you could...
We're all about safety here, folks.
You could hear that van coming from about 4 miles away.
And it was like the theme song from Legend of Zelda or something.
Whatever you wanted to play, yeah. Call of Duty, whatever was...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, whatever was going on at that time.
Grand Theft Auto.
Grand Theft Auto,
the kids are playing these days.
Yeah. I mean, it was sweet.
What a cool uncle.
Oh, yeah. I did what I could. But it was a minivan all the same. But it did have this really cool steering wheel cover that was like cheetah print. I'm just saying.
Nice.
You know, it was pimped out for real, though.
I'm sure his friends thought it was the coolest thing ever.
You know, just saying. If that wasn't a shaggin' wagon, nothing was. I'm just saying.
Exactly.
I mean, it was a minivan. I mean, you know, you're not snagging pelts in a minivan. Let's just face it.
Well, and you know, gamers, I think I always have joked about my son, like he was a really great football player and you could think he was like a really cool stud kind of guy. And like, he's kind of a nerd trapped inside of a good athlete's body. And he was like on the weekends gaming with his friends. I'm like, that's not how you get girls either.
Well, that generation, right? I mean, I think they're about the same age. So that generation really wasn't out like, I mean, they weren't out whoring. They were out playing video games.
They were. They still do, Tim. They still do this.
Yeah. So it was kind of disappointing. I'm like, I mean, we made the pimp mobile here and you're out. I mean, literally, they were out on a weekend. They were out playing video games in the van.
Yeah. Impressing all their video game nerd friends. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. So I didn't have to worry about him getting in trouble because he literally was just playing video games in a van.
Yeah. That's a good thing. I liked that about my son too. I'm like, I'm glad he likes to just sit around with the dudes and play video games.
Yeah. So
much less stress inducing.
Yeah. My sister thought this is an accident waiting to happen. Literally, they would just pull over, run the engine and play video games. I mean, it was no trouble whatsoever. The rest of the story basically goes like this. Zeb Sheffa, who is a University of Minnesota freshman and also a TikTok personality, did the same to his car early in December. What started as a fun way to spread Christmas spirit became one of his favorite projects. He said, my main idea was that mostly kind of just to brighten up everybody's faces during finals week. It eventually obviously became a stressful time, he said. After 12 hours of teamwork, 4,000 lights, and tons of painter's tape, his car was ready. He drove around the Dinkytown neighborhood by the U of M campus, and recorded people's positive accounts. There's nothing wrong with that.
I love it. They're spreading Christmas cheer.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea.
We need more of it.
That's right. Police reactions can vary nationwide. In 2023, YouTuber Jake Schnatter wrapped his BMW. Oh my God, that's a nice car to be wrapping in Christmas lights. With more than 2,000 Christmas lights, and was stopped by local police officers who tossed him a compliment instead of a citation, which is nice.
Yeah.
Both Helgeson and Sheffa this year were first-time decorators and were forced to learn the rules after being pulled over and received warnings. I kind of get the fact that the lights are distracting to drivers and that people will turn next, and that will cause accidents, Sheffa said, especially with all the bad roads. I don't want to be more of a distraction. They claim they don't drive around with their vehicles lit up anymore. Both decorators promise to keep covering them with lights every year. So they promise just to stop and light them up in different parking lots and whatnot, rather than drive around with them lit up. Although that's
we need to do this next year.
I think so. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool deal. All right. On to more traditional dumb crime, stupid criminals. We go to Altoona, Pennsylvania, where an Altoona man has been charged with attempted homicide after shooting at a passing trucker.
Oh.
This will not get the potential presence on time to anywhere if you're shooting at any truckers. I'll tell you that much. We go to Blair County, Pennsylvania, where authorities in Blair County say an Altoona man is faced with attempted homicide charges after he reportedly shot at a passing truck driver on Tuesday after expressing repeated frustrations with truckers. Police say 53-year-old Michael Cervello was taken into custody late Tuesday afternoon following a brief standoff with law enforcement, hours after he allegedly shot at a big rig that was passing by his Spruce Avenue home. According to the affidavit, police say the truck driver told officers that he had experienced repeated issues with Cervello, who had reportedly expressed concerns with truck drivers driving through the area. Police say Cervello reportedly made numerous statements, both publicly and on social media, expressing his discontent with truck drivers and their alleged use of Jake brakes. Authorities say Cervello allegedly confronted the victim at his workplace and made public posts that accused truck drivers of personally targeting and harassing him. I think he's got a bit of a persecution complex personally, which he claims caused him to suffer PTSD and panic attacks.
Oh my goodness, he's a mess.
Yeah, I think he needs to lighten up a little bit. Police say on Tuesday afternoon, the victim was reportedly traveling in the area of Spruce Avenue and 31st Street when his windshield was struck by a bullet. Investigators noted that the bullet did not pierce through the glass, but that if it had, it would have likely struck the driver in the head.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, nice shot, buddy.
Dude.
Yeah. Police say the victim told officers that he witnessed that an individual had ran back into his home along Spruce Avenue after the bullet had been fired. Authorities say the victim identified the home in question and a search warrant was issued. Police say Cervello initially refused to leave the home and later lied to officers about being aware of their presence after police allegedly discovered that he was watching them on home surveillance. Investigators noted that the home surveillance footage also reportedly captured audio of the alleged shooting. So they had him dead to rights. I mean, so to speak. I mean, nobody was dead in this scenario, obviously. According to the affidavit, Amy Cervello reportedly told officers that there were multiple firearms inside the residence, but denied having any knowledge of the alleged shooting. Police say a search of the home led to the discovery of 6 firearms, including a .22 caliber rifle that is believed to have been used to shoot at the trucker. Authorities say officers also seized 1.3 pounds of marijuana and several drug packaging materials. Investigators say that during the arrest, Cervello reportedly went on an expletive-filled tirade about truck drivers and a lack of action by Altoona city government. Police also say he claimed to have made a social media post predicting that one of his neighbors was going to shoot at the next passing truck driver, but reportedly stated, "You think I'm gonna effing tell you?" Well, you just did on social media.
Wow.
So, yeah, that so much for that.
A little unhinged.
A little bit. Yeah, I think he's a little upset at truck drivers. Upon further investigation, police viewed several recent social media posts from Cervello, including one that referenced the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Not a.
Yikes.
Yeah, no one's on your side here, bud. In the post, police say Cervello reportedly stated sometimes drug dealers get shot in reference to the recent Saturday Night Live monologue by actor-comedian Chris Rock, who is referencing the CEO's murder. According to online court records, Cervello was arraigned Wednesday on over a dozen charges and is housed at the Blair County Prison on $400,000 bail. So,
oh, good. I think that's appropriate.
I don't think he'll be seeing home for Christmas. So there you go. I think he's stuck there. Jess, I'll just put this this way. I think we're in the wrong business for Christmas.
Oh.
In fact,
what would be the right business?
I think I'm thinking about quitting the show after reading this next story. I think I'm done. Okay. I think this is my retirement. So long. I'm done. I think I found a new business.
Well, I can't wait to hear it.
2 North Texas men were arrested after they were found in a $400,000, get this, Jess, Lego theft ring.
Oh, wow.
Did you know there's that much money in Legos?
No, I feel like you'd have to steal the whole Legoland to be that much.
Do you know how much Legos go for?
I mean, I do, because I just got some for the kids for Christmas.
Uh-huh.
And they are like $100 for a set.
Yeah. Did you take out a second mortgage for those Legos?
It's crazy because they only put them together one time and then they don't ever do them again.
Right. $100, boom, out the window for one time. Mm-hmm.
Might as well just have thrown it in the trash.
How many times have you stepped on those Legos, Jess?
Oh, too many, Tim.
Did you know, I have it on good authority after having watched wrestling for many, many years now, that they've been using Legos in wrestling matches now for about 7 years?
No, what do? They put them on the
They
ground?
spread it out on the ring apron, and then boom, they throw another wrestler on top of the Legos. It's more painful than tax.
That sounds terrible.
It hurts like a motherfucker.
I don't like it.
It does. I'm telling you right now. Don't mean to swear, but it hurts.
It's like a mother.
It does. Anyways, I'll go back to the story here. Two men, I could make a fortune off of wrestlers and little kids.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah. $400,000.
Sounds a little creepy when you say you're going to make a fortune off little kids, but
Hey, it's a more clean living than making money off of drugs.
it's true.
Yeah.
And they are addictive. My kids love them, and they've gotten them every year
I'm
since
telling you.
beginning of time.
Illegal Legos. That's where it's at. Try to say that 10 times fast. Illegal Lego. Oh, God, I can't.
I can't even say it once.
Yeah, illegal Legos. Two men from Lancaster, Texas were arrested last week in connection to a crime ring responsible for stealing nearly $400,000 worth of toy Lego sets from retail stores across America. 33-year-old Brian Fleming and 33-year-old Ladarian Anderson, want to make sure I got that right, were apprehended in Fort Worth, finally ending an investigation that stretched over several years in multiple states. This is a RICO charge over goddamn Legos.
This is a national Lego ring.
Yep, I said it.
Yikes.
Yeah. According to investigators, the scheme began in early 2021, you heard me right, and involves stealing high-value Lego toy sets from big retail chains like Walmart and Target. The two men and an alleged team would buy inexpensive items from the stores and then alter the receipts to make it appear as if they'd bought expensive Lego sets. They would later return with the modified receipt, pick up the targeted Lego sets from the shelves, and walk out without paying. If questioned by store employees or security, they would present the edited receipt and walk out without causing alarm.
How do you edit a receipt? That's clever,
I suppose with a dot matrix printer.
I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
The group stole a total of $400,000 worth of Lego sets, with the thefts occurring in Texas, Oklahoma, Florida, and Pennsylvania. The investigation into the Lego crime ring began after a 2022 traffic stop in Texas, where state troopers discovered stolen Lego and other items in a stopped car. Boy, was that a proud trooper that day, I'll tell you. Upon further examination, investigators were able to trace these items back to specific retail stores and link them to the suspects. Texas Department of Public Safety Sergeant Chris Williamson noted that while the thefts may seem minor at first glance, Lego sets are highly valuable, especially to certain collectors, and can fetch substantial resale prices. It seems like it's in a little small box, but if you think about it, these Legos are very valuable to not only kids but adults and are very collectible, Williamson told Fox as he snickered into a microphone. I added that last part. According to a 2024 report from IGN, Legos can offer a wide range of pricey collections, with the Star Wars Millennium Falcon and AT-AT sets topping out at how much, Jess?
For one set?
Yep, for the Millennium Falcon and AT-AT sets or AT-AT sets, how much do you think those sets go for?
At least a couple $100.
Oh, you are not even close.
I was going to say 400 or 500.
$850.
My kids are never getting that for Christmas.
Yeah. Other collections from the company have hit monstrous prices in the resale market, some even receiving bids in the tens of thousands of dollars.
Insane.
Yep. That is why there's theft going on. During the investigation, authorities in Texas identified dozens of stores across the Dallas-Fort Worth area and locations in Austin and Houston where the group stole Legos and other items via modified receipts. Both men were arrested in Fort Worth, with Fleming being transferred to Smith County for outstanding warrants. According to arrest records, Fleming and Anderson now face charges of engaging in organized criminal activity and theft exceeding $300,000.
Wow. For Legos. That's crazy.
I'm in the wrong goddamn business.
I think so.
Yeah.
You do the Legos, I'll do the Lululemon. We're going to be rich.
I'm telling you, between Lululemon and Legos, we're going to be rolling high. Rolling high, I'm telling you.
Right. It was nice knowing you guys.
Yep.
Visit us in jail when they catch us.
We'll do this thing from jail. Just saying. We can do this from anywhere.
We could.
Yeah.
I guess we could.
In the meantime, we'll be zillionaires. Me and my Lego kingdom.
Oh, my.
Just saying. Our next story has to do with two Rochester men. By the way, this came from one of our listeners. I want to thank Tom. I want to thank Tony. I want to thank all the listeners that have sent us in stories this week. Keep it coming, folks. Tim@darknessradio.com. Send them in. We'll get them here on the air. This one has to do with two Rochester men who die after fertilizing their marijuana plants with something unusual.
Ooh, scary.
It doesn't pay to do crime with bad fertilizer. Let's tell you how they did it. So, bro, how blitzed do you have to be to decide to use bat poop to fertilize your weed plants?
Oh, no. Come on.
Yeah, dude. Like, at that point, you don't even need more marijuana. Seriously. Anyhow, we just want to stress this point. If you have the urge to handle bat poop for any reason, don't do it.
No.
Yeah. We should have learned from, like, the coronavirus. Probably a bad idea. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Two New York men have died after contacting a rare fungal infection from bat feces that they used to fertilize their marijuana plants. Both men of Rochester, New York, were cultivating cannabis for personal use when their health started to deteriorate, according to a case published in the journal Open Forum Infectious Diseases. The two men, already weakened by years of tobacco and marijuana consumption, were admitted to local hospitals with matching histoplasmosis infections, which are often associated with breathing in spores from bat dookie.
Oh, did they know each other? Were they?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Once in the hospital, one guy copped to having handled bat feces in his home. He told doctors that there was a heavy bat infestation in his attic. That's what he copped to. Which as a result was covered in bat feces or guano. He said he decided to use the waste to fertilize his marijuana and then relayed his plan to the 59-year-old who purchased his own guano online. Ew.
Oh, he paid for it. Wow.
Yeah, he did. The 59-year-old quickly succumbed to the infection while his friend was released from the hospital after treatment, but he returned a month later and died shortly thereafter.
Oh, that's sad.
That is a quick way to die. By the way, they should be both posthumously inducted into the Darwin Awards, I would think. So there you go. That's a hell of a way to win a Darwin Award.
I guess.
Yeah. Our next story has to do with a Florida woman. Yes, we're going to Florida, who accidentally fired an unfamiliar gun at a Cincinnati airport. By the way, when you're traveling for the holidays, leave your guns at home, kids. Just a good...
That's a good plan, yeah.
Good holiday tip from us here at True Crime Tuesday to you. Leave the guns at home. You don't need to take them to the relative's house.
No, definitely don't need to take them into the airport. That's a federal offense.
Yeah, I'm sure they have their own guns at your relative's house that you can use there. We go to Hebron, Kentucky, where a Florida woman was charged after she accidentally fired an unfamiliar gun on Thursday at a ticket counter inside Cincinnati Northern Kentucky International Airport, according to police. Brianna Mary Hanna of Jacksonville was at the United Airlines ticket counter on Thursday morning, where she accidentally fired the North American Arms 22 Magnum while trying to move it from her purse to her checked luggage.
Oh.
Because you don't want to carry it on. I mean, they'll take it.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't check it either.
No, you can't. It's a good observation there, Jess.
Sort of kind of trying to follow the rules.
Yeah. Hannah told police she was unfamiliar with the firearm and was unsure how to make it safe, according to the citation. She had said her husband bought her the gun and loaded it for her, and she had only fired it once since owning it around Christmas of last year. No one was hit by the bullet, according to police. Yes, it did discharge. Hannah was charged with first-degree wanton endangerment. Kentucky online court records show the arraignment was scheduled, or it is scheduled, for January 23rd. So yeah, no unloading of your firearm in the airport. You could hurt somebody.
No, that's pretty stupid.
It's very stupid. We move on, where this one was actually sent to us by multiple people this week. It weighs in as our favorite story of the week by our listeners.
Must be a good one.
It's a very good one. We go to Colorado, where a Colorado driver is busted for a DUI crash and has explained to cops, hey, it's okay. I'm a professional drinker.
Ooh, that's a thing?
It's a thing. You can't bust me on this. I'm a professional drinker.
My job.
So remember, folks, when you've had a couple this holiday season and you go to use your keys, you can't be busted if you're a professional drinker. After causing a 3-car crash, you heard that right, a Colorado man whose blood alcohol content was later measured at over 4 times the legal limit.
Oh, my.
Explained to arresting officers that he was a professional drinker. Investigators busted 34-year-old Denver resident Matthew Campman for driving under the influence, careless driving, and operating an uninsured vehicle following a Wednesday afternoon accident earlier this month. According to police, Campman plowed his 2000 Nissan Sentra into the rear of a Subaru stopped in traffic on a street in Wheat Ridge, which is a Denver suburb. The Subaru then lurched forward and hit a third car. When cops contacted Campman, he allegedly smelled of booze, had bloodshot eyes, and his speech was slurred. When one officer asked another if there was an indication of drug use on Campman's part, the suspect piped in, "No drugs, man. Just a lot of drinking." Glad he qualified that.
Like, it's not as bad as you think.
That's right. Campman would go on to explain that he was no amateur. Matthew told me that he was a professional drinker. While slurring his speech, a cop noted, he later described himself as a professional alcoholic while preparing to take a breath test that would eventually record a .326 blood alcohol content. By the way, the state limit in Colorado is a .08. So,
gosh, I feel like I would be dead if I blew that.
Most people would be. Yeah.
Wow.
But a .326, 4 times, exactly a little over 4 times the state limit. A search of Campman, who said he consumed 10 drinks. 10 drinks, folks. I think that's a little more than 10 drinks to be a .32.
I was going to say, I guess it depends on what they are. If it's a hard liquor drink.
I think that's shots. It's probably 10 shots. Recovered an empty Jim Beam shooter in a pants pocket, while numerous empty and full Jim Beam shooters and several empty Modelo beer cans littered his car floorboards.
It was just a little drinking and driving.
I think he had a little more than 10. Police later released Campman into the custody of his wife, who was a sober driver, thank God.
Oh, she was probably so mad.
Oh, then some. In 2020, by the way, a Florida man assured cops that he was a professional drinker after being pulled over for speeding. George Emanuel, who's now 59, had a blood alcohol content nearly triple the .08 limit. Amateur. He was arrested for DUI. He later copped to a reduced charge of reckless driving. He was sentenced to 12 months probation, ordered to perform 50 hours of community service, and attended DUI school. So he was only like a .24.
Yep.
So yeah, he didn't even come close.
He's a novice.
.326, Jess.
That's crazy.
I'm surprised he could walk.
Yeah, I feel intoxicated just thinking about that. That's insane.
Yeah, I'll say. Our next story has to do with a prison aide who copped to an Indiana lasagna smuggle. But it's not just lasagna with regular oregano.
Uh-oh. Is it weed lasagna?
Oh, it's got a little bit more than that. It's got extra special ingredients, Jess. This one is not exactly Grandma's special recipe, if you know what I'm saying. A nursing aide pleaded guilty to hiding cocaine and marijuana inside a bowl of frozen lasagna. Now that's Italian.
Yummy.
That she tried to smuggle into the Indiana prison where she worked. During a Superior Court hearing, 47-year-old Regina Davis copped to felony narcotics charges in connection with an incident earlier this year at the Indiana State Prison. a maximum security facility housing more than 2,000 adult males. I wonder if she brought enough for everybody. Just wondering.
A lot.
By the way, with cocaine and weed, that kind of negates the effect, you know?
Yeah. Cancel each other out, right?
Yeah. Sentencing hearing for Davis, who is free on only $1,500 bond, is scheduled for January 31st. Davis, who's been licensed as a certified nurse aide since 2003, was responsible for distributing medicine to inmates at the Michigan City lockup. That's a different kind of medicine altogether. Yeah. In July, Davis arrived for work one morning toting a batch of lasagna that a guard thought looked a little odd as it passed through an x-ray machine, according to a probable cause affidavit. A secondary examination of the Italian delicacy turned up several packages wrapped in electrical tape that contained cocaine, about 3 ounces, and 1.7 ounces of pot.
Wow. That's crazy. Like, why do you just take a lasagna to the jail anyways? Can you just take food in like that?
Well, maybe if you're feeding the employees.
I don't know.
I brought lunch for everybody.
Yeah.
It's
Buffet?
It's a little spicy. During questioning, Davis claimed to not know the lasagna included an extra layer of controlled substances, adding that a female acquaintance had just given her 2 containers of lasagna to eat. Davis's phone, however, contained photos of the drug packages that had been snapped a day earlier. Davis said that unknown individuals had threatened her safety and that of her brother, who she said had just been released from prison work release program in South Bend. Davis claimed she was instructed to go with a black guy to pick up the drugs, just some unknown black guy, I guess. Some of which she admitted wrapping herself, by the way, those drug packages. The narcotics, she added, were to be picked up by an individual who stopped by the prison's drug room and used a code phrase. They were there to pick up some cream for their feet, she said. So that was the phrase that pays. I'm here to get some
little foot cream.
Yes, I'm here for some foot cream. In other words, give me the drugs. So there you go. All right, it's time for a Not Safe for Work portion of our program. So if it hasn't been spicy enough for you, it's time to have the kids go check their stockings by the fire with care. It's time to put your boss away for the rest of the holiday season. And it's time to put in your earbuds because it's about to get spicier than Santa might want to know. So there you go. Our first story in the Not Safe for Work category has to do with the New York Police Department Chief Jeffrey Madry resigning amid sexual misconduct allegations, Jess.
Ruh-roh.
Merry Christmas. Here's some allegations, I guess, right? Yet another scandal is rocking the New York City Police Department. Jeffrey Madry, the department's high-ranking uniformed, I almost said informed. He's not informed on anything. He's just uniformed. Officer resigned Friday night after a bombshell allegation of sexual misconduct on the job. Madry, the former chief of department, there we go, is accused of trading sexual favors for overtime. That doesn't seem very fair.
Wait. Huh?
Yeah, right?
You do a sexual favor and you get to work more?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Merry Christmas, right? Normally it's like sexual favors, here's some cash. Sexual favors, here's some lovely prizes. Sexual favors, here's some more work. Which one of those would you choose?
Yeah, probably, well, none of the above.
Well, yeah.
But if I had to choose, I'd go for the cash, Tim.
Yeah. The lovely contestant in our story here, Lieutenant, I think this is Quatisha Epps, filed a complaint Saturday with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Evidently not the brightest bulb on the New York City Police Department tree, saying the abuse started last year and continued up until this week. Madry just appeared a few days ago in front of the City Council's Public Safety Committee to defend the New York Police Department's use of stop and frisk. Meanwhile, a major shakeup was unfolding. Epps alleges that between June 2023 and Monday, Madry engaged in efforts to coerce her into performing unwanted sexual favors in exchange for overtime opportunities. Just the opportunity for overtime.
Wow. He thinks a lot of himself.
I guess, right? So you can come over here and in order to get some overtime. Maybe.
And then you can work more.
Then you can have some more work.
Girl, I got to talk to this girl.
Right.
We got to talk.
Right. And then I want to talk to her too afterwards because I got some overtime over here you can do. I mean, no, I'm kidding. No, I'm joking. She says that included intercourse in the office.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So evidently, Mr. Madry didn't even want to take it to the hotel. He just basically, it's, let's get it done here because time's a wasting. Just saying.
I got to get you on that list for potential overtime.
Yeah, because I don't want to waste money at the hotel.
Wow.
According to publicly available payroll data, Epps made a salary last year of more than $164,000. But after overtime was factored in, she took home more than $400,000.
What? Okay. All right.
That overtime's worth...
Maybe for overtime.
That overtime's worth some money. Overtime is... Well, it's 2.5 times, right? Salary?
Time and a half, right?
Time and a half. So but holy shit. Time and a half.
That's a lot. Like, how much overtime is she working in?
That's a lot of overtime.
A lot. Does the sex part count as part of the hours for overtime?
I don't think so. I don't think it's just...
Seems like it should.
Maybe overtime is just sitting around drinking coffee because... $164,000 and then $400,000 is your total take-home pay?
Once again, Tim, we are in the wrong profession.
Legos or NYPD? Hey, I'll get effed in order to get $400,000. I'm just saying, Mr. Madry, you can have your way with me for $400,000. That's all I'm saying. What do you need me to do? Let me limber up my lips here.
Oh my.
After refusing his advances in October, it's $400,000, girl. Let's talk. I mean, come on. She says Madry retaliated by orchestrating an intentionally manipulated monthly overtime report, which resulted in a criminal and internal investigation opened against her. Oh, he went criminal on her.
Oh, was he just fudging the numbers? She wasn't working the overtime. He was just fudging the numbers. Oh. This is making more sense now.
So she wasn't actually working the overtime.
She's not as dumb as I thought she was.
Okay. Her attorney adds systemic failures within the NYPD allowed Chief Madry's predatory behavior to continue unchecked, culminating in his promotion to the department's highest uniform position by Mayor Eric Adams. There's a name we all know from the news, despite a well-documented history of misconduct and abuse of power. Adams's office issued a statement that says, "We are deeply disturbed by these allegations and the NYPD is investigating this matter. Mayor Adams is working in close coordination with Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch as the NYPD conducts a separate department-wide review to ensure no high-ranking officers are using their power inappropriately. We will refrain from commenting further to avoid jeopardizing either investigation." Epps also claims that Madry had an inappropriate relationship with another female detective. I wonder how much she's getting paid. I'm just curious because I mean, $400,000 is a lot, but I mean, maybe she's getting more, and that's where all the jealousy's coming in.
Could be.
Just saying. Yeah. So he's having an inappropriate relationship with another female detective. The allegations have gotten the attention of the city's Department of Investigation as well as the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. These are extremely serious and disturbing claims that allegedly occurred at NYPD headquarters in Manhattan. We are investigating, spokesperson for the Manhattan DA's office said. Now, by the way, after Madry resigned, Tisch appointed Chief of Patrol John Schell as interim Chief of Department, and Chief of Transportation Philip Rivera was named interim Chief of Patrol. just in case you're keeping score at home. No word on how much they charge for overtime. I'm just saying. I mean, we should be able to keep score on that too.
Hopefully, we'll find out in the next installment.
Yeah, hopefully we'll know. I mean, no one's made any overages or overtures as to how that works. Just saying. So, I mean, you can submit your time slips to either one of those to see. So, in other not safe for work news, a man by the name of D's Nuts is sentenced for a domestic fracas.
No.
Yep. D's Nuts appeared to be highly intoxicated.
Did his mama name him that?
Well, no, Jess.
Okay.
That is a applied for name. Oh. D's Nuts. In a plea deal, D's Nuts has been sentenced to D's penalties, a year's probation, a $463 fine, and in order to maintain absolute sobriety. Just evidently D's Nuts can't hold D's liquor. Just saying. 43-year-old D's Nuts Kroll.
Oh, my.
Was arrested earlier this year following a violent confrontation with his daughter and her boyfriend inside their residence. Guess where, Jess? In Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Oh, right across the border.
Yeah, our neighbors to the east. Figures. It's about 4 miles from the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field is where they reside. Kind of figures that they're Packer fans, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, we're going to beat them on Sunday anyway, so whatever.
Yeah, we are. At the time of Kroll's arrest, a cop noted that D's Nuts appeared to be highly intoxicated and was naked when he brandished a BB gun that resembled a pistol.
Oh, wow. That's a scene.
Well, at least they could distinguish the difference between a BB pistol and D's Nuts' nuts, if you know what I mean. Kroll yesterday pleaded to no contest to disorderly conduct while in possession of a dangerous weapon, which wasn't between his legs, I can tell you that much. Kroll was adjunctly guilty of the second-degree misdemeanor by Tammy Jo Hawk, a circuit court judge. I wonder if my uncle knows Tammy Jo Hawk. A misdemeanor battery charge was dropped by prosecutors. In an earlier court filing, Kroll reported attending counseling sessions with his 19-year-old daughter. Kroll legally changed his name, by the way, from Derek Lee Kroll to D's Nuts Kroll in April of 2011. He must be proud. So must his mother.
I mean, to be his child, what a gift.
It's the gift that keeps on giving on Christmas. I'm sure.
And my kids think I'm embarrassing.
Right?
Yeah.
You just tell your children you never changed your name to Disvag. I'm just saying you could if you wanted to, but you never have.
I should get a fake ID made that says that and pretend like I did.
Hold it up for her friends. Just say,
Mama's got a new name.
Dismatch. And you have to address me as such in front of your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. So Derek Lee Kroll became D's Nuts back in April of 2011, noting that the reason for the handle revision was
I can't wait.
I can't say this with a straight face. I was, without a doubt, hate my name. That's a quote.
Okay.
6 years later, in September 2017, Kroll petitioned to change his first name from Des Nuts to D's Nuts because he misspelled it. It was D-E-Z to D-double-E-Z. Because he figured out.
This was double the effort. It wasn't just a one and done change your name. He had to go back and fix it.
Evidently, he went to night school or something, and the teacher went, Des Nuts? Des Nuts? Is there a Des Nuts here? And he was like, D's! D's! And they're like, well, at least learn how to spell your name, dipshit.
It's like, now I have to go get the tattoo changed.
He's like, it's D's nuts. They're like, no, because it's Des. It's only one E.
Oh, man.
Dumblefuck. He's like, I got to go add an E. Can you just put it on my tattoo? Could you just put an E above that E right there? You did a little E above that E.
I have one of those little carrot things and then put the E above it.
Yeah, just a little.
That's how you do it.
Yeah. Explaining in a handwritten court filing, it was not spelled right. So he had to go back and it was not spelled right. It's D's with 2 E's. Can you imagine having to go back to the court and saying, I didn't do it right?
We didn't spell D's nuts right. I'm so dumb. I don't even know how to spell my dumb new name right.
Merry Christmas. I'm that stupid. Kroll's second name change was approved by Judge Hawk, by the way. Judge Hawk went, if you want to be that fucking dumb, sure, go ahead. I'll approve it. Court adjourned. And that was
See you
it.
later when you break the law for being
That's right.
super dumb.
When you break the law, I'll be here to approve it. I'm here to sentence you. You got it. All right, Jess, if that wasn't hot enough for you, ready for this?
Yes.
A strip club DJ is hospitalized after being stabbed by a dancer.
What?
Yeah.
Ugh.
I tell you, I was almost a strip club DJ.
Sounds like a dangerous job, Tim.
Kind of is. I mean, it's not all wine, roses, and twofers. You know. I know you're saying, what's a twofer?
I don't know. I didn't want to ask. I know it's going to be bad.
I won't tell you then.
Let me be innocent, please.
Yeah. I'll let you maintain some of that. Yeah, I was. I was almost a strip club DJ. You almost didn't have me doing this show.
Wow.
I was.
What stopped you from fulfilling that lifelong dream of stripper DJing?
In fact, my girlfriend said, I'll leave you if you do. I should have took the job. I would have been rid of her. I'm just saying. I mean, the one I had at the time. I probably would have exacerbated that whole ending of the relationship. Probably would have been the best thing that happened to me. The same, but. And it would have made a shit ton of money.
Yeah, I suppose they probably do make good money, huh?
Yeah.
When they're not getting stabbed.
Well, when they're not getting stabbed, especially if you're in Portland, Oregon. Turns out this DJ at Casa Diablo. The next statement I make is going to be the most confusing statement I'll make all day.
Okay.
Casa Diablo, a vegan strip club in Northwest Portland.
Wait, what? So are the strippers not meat? They're free of dairy? They're not lactating? I'm confused. I don't understand what's happening right now.
I'm going to hit you with the most obvious line of the entire program, Jess.
Okay.
You know why it's a vegan strip club?
Why?
Get ready for the rim shot. Because nobody there is eating pussy. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Show's over.
Show's over. Good night. I said that. Thank you, baby Jesus. I said that on your birthday.
The eve of his birthday, right?
Yeah, the eve of his birthday. This is a picture of him up on my wall right up there. Sorry, baby Jesus.
Do you really have a picture of Jesus looking down at you while you do this?
Yeah, do you want me to take a picture of it? I'll show you.
Yeah.
There is. There's a picture.
That's great.
Yeah, there's a picture right up. I do. Yeah, you're like, that's great. You think I'm some sort of heathen? No, here, I'll show you. Here.
I'm just curious, what version of Jesus do we have going on here?
What version?
You know, there's so many different versions.
Right there.
I like that one.
I actually got that at a thrift shop by the Palmer.
What's he doing with that kid's head, though?
Molesting him. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding. That is
Don't say that about
That's a horrible joke. On his birthday, even. No, it's
I'm glad he has a good sense of humor.
I know. No, it's just there was something about it that just kind of reached out to me. So
I like it. JC's my fave. I love everything about him.
He's my fave too. So no, it's just it's a picture. Actually, let me blow this up here so you can see it a little bit. It's just there's I don't remember which scripture it is. It's just about Jesus ministering to the children.
Oh, there, that's better. I can see now.
You can
kind
see
of
it.
look like he had him in a headlock.
Yes.
Why is Jesus beating this kid up?
I have a picture of Jesus with a kid in a headlock. It's wrestling Jesus on my wall. Yes.
Oh. Well, that's less weird than I thought it was.
This is the most sacrilegious Christmas program you'll listen to.
It's not true, folks. Jesus is not wrestling a child. He has his hands lovingly on his cheek.
For the love of God. You're wrestling Jesus.
Oh, we're derailing. I don't know how we got here.
No, it's
Strippers and bloody knives and Jesus wrestling a child.
Christ on a crutch. Wrestling Jesus. I don't know what kind of heathen you think I am, but I'm glad you think I'm that.
I don't know. I don't know, Tim. I only think good things of you, but
Sure you do.
you never know.
Where was I? Oh, DJ getting stabbed at a strip club. That's where I was.
Yes.
All right.
The
Okay.
vegan strip club.
Vegan strip club. You already got the punchline in. All right. Vegan strip club in Northwest Portland is recovering in a hospital after being stabbed several times by a stripper. On December 8th, Duncan Allen was DJing in the club when Peyton Lathan, who's a dancer there, walked up behind him and stabbed him several times in the back, according to the documents. I felt the largest pressure I think I've ever had in my life. Oh, he's never been to prison. Hi-oh!
All the rim shots tonight, Tim.
Thank you very much. It felt like a 500-pound muscular man punching me in the back, he said. So to speak.
Oh, no.
The jokes write themselves, Jess. Alan managed to get to the club's kitchen where staff called 911 while keeping pressure on the wounds. It's a different kind of stigmata, if you will. When asked why Lathan would stab him, court documents said that Alan thought she had a mental break.
Well, sounds like it.
A little bit. Maybe he didn't play the appropriate song when she got on stage.
You started it in the wrong spot.
Right. You know, when she gets up there and you start playing The Bitch Is Back by Elton John, that's probably not the one she requested. You know, you probably want a different...
I would make it work, though. I would just work it.
Yeah, you
it
just
would be
work
fine.
It. Yeah. It was supposed to be Pour Some Sugar on Me, not The Bitch Is Back. Come on. According to Portland police, officers at the scene saw 2 stab wounds on Alan's back and another one under his left armpit. Nice shot, kid. Security video from the scene shows Lathan walk up behind Alan while he was in the DJ booth. I told you he played the wrong song.
Yeah.
Where she stood for a few seconds before pulling the knife out of her sleeve and stabbing him before fleeing the club, according to court documents. So there you go. Oh, by the way, after the stabbing, Lathan was found hiding in bushes nearby where she was taken into custody.
Of course she was.
They can't see me in here. Officers at the scene said they found 2 black and silver knives on the ground nearby, one of which had a red stain on the tip. I guess that's the guilty one. Court documents claim that during the arrest, Lathan said she was pleading insanity, and she also claimed that Alan is a drug dealer and that you will find 0 trace of alcohol and drugs in my body.
So I'm just straight up crazy.
Yep. I haven't been doing anything. Lathan is expected to appear in court this next week. So there you go. All right. Palate cleanser, and then we're out of here.
All right.
You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Although I don't know how much of a palate cleanser it is because it's kind of a phallic symbol story.
Okay.
We're not going that far. Gentlemen, start your engines. Turns out that the Oscar Myers Wienermobile is hiring new drivers.
Oh, yes.
Just saying.
I want to drive it.
Do you want to get on top of that Wienermobile? And
I posted on our Ghost Stories Inc. Facebook page that one of us should get this job, and then we can film a reality show where we just drive around in a wiener and go to different haunted locations. You'd watch that, right? It'd be good. Just a bunch of kids in a wiener go and find ghosts.
Sure.
It sounded brilliant in my head.
Yep. That's where it should stay. By the way, the brand is owned by food giant Kraft Heinz. It officially began its annual search for new drivers for the massive hot dog on wheels this past week. In the job posting, it described the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile spokesperson job as a one-of-a-kind position, Jess. That's you.
It really is.
That's you, kid. It comes with a competitive package that includes a $35,000 base salary. Can you afford to quit your job? Go do that.
Not for $35,000 base salary.
Mm-mm. A weekly allowance of $150 or $7,200 a year for meals and personal travel.
That sweetens it a little bit.
That's a whole lot of mac and cheese. $150.
A lot of hot dogs.
Mm-hmm. Hot dogs and mac and cheese. $150. $150 a week for meals and personal travel. 18 days of paid time off. It's not a lot of time with the family.
That's not enough.
Yeah.
Is there a bed in the wiener? Can I sleep in it?
You can sleep on the wiener all you want. You know
Not
what?
on the wiener tin.
That's the only wiener that stays up all day long. 365 days a year.
Oh, no.
Full health benefits package. So, yes.
You keep saying package.
I do. And 100% of hotel expenses covered. So, yes, you can stay all over the country with your wiener.
See, I think it sounds great.
By the way, you only get limited time with your wiener.
Really?
1 year.
I want the wiener all the time.
1 year, Jess. It's the position's a 1 year position.
Oh.
So you can
You're
only
going to get so attached to the wiener, and then you're going to have to let it go.
That's right. You only get 1 year with it. You get as much wiener as you can stand for a year, and then you got to get rid of it. But it's better that way. It's just
you might be kind of tired of the wiener after a while.
That's right. Yeah. So you just take as much as you can get for a year and then discard it. The job will entail serving as an Oscar Mayer spokesperson while driving and maintaining the Wienermobile, the brand said. Hot doggers, that's what you'll be called.
Ooh.
Yeah, you're a hot dogger. Once you are hired, can expect to drive the 27-foot-long hot dog. You ever had 27 feet at one time? Just asking.
Oh, Tim.
To numerous cities over the course of their 1 year assignment, executing and reporting over 200 events. According to Oscar Mayer, they also will be tasked with engaging with the media and creating social media posts. Wienermobile drivers will be ideally outgoing, creative, friendly, exuberant college graduate. You have to be a college graduate for this job.
Why would you need to be a college graduate to drive a Wienermobile?
who have an appetite for adventure and willing to see the country through the windshield of the iconic Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. That according to the job posting. By the way, you also have to have past experience traveling and working with consumers, bring good time management skills, and know your way around social media. And of course, that's a lot to ask for just this job. And of course, you need a valid driver's license for operating the Wienermobile.
Yeah, that is a lot. And that's not a very hefty salary for a college graduate.
$35,000 for all that experience.
I made more teaching.
Right?
Which is really saying something.
They're asking too much.
Would be fun, though.
It sounds like they're looking for a Gen Z person, too. It says, with more than half of Gen Z aspiring to be an influencer, our hot dog program is a great first step for anyone interested in exploring a career in social media or brand marketing, said Molly Twing, an Oscar Mayer senior brand manager. Experiential said in a statement, with content creation and communications at the center of the job, it's only masterclass that takes place on a 27-foot-long hot dog. I got something that'll take place on 27-foot hot dog. Making for one truly life-changing experience you won't get from a typical 9 to 5. I don't know.
If I didn't have a family, I actually would consider it. It sounds kind of fun.
It does sound like a lot of fun, not gonna lie. Although, you know what? I can make $400,000 on Legos. Or fucking an NYPD lieutenant. So, you know, I'm just saying. $35,000 on the Wienermobile, $400,000 blowing an NYPD lieutenant. You know, I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Buy a tube of chapstick, ride a Wienermobile.
Both involve a wiener, but
That's right.
in very different ways.
In very different ways. Just saying. By the way, if you want to know how much you're getting ripped off by riding a Wienermobile, Kraft Heinz, the corporate parent brands of Classical, Lunchables, Smart Ones, and Kool-Aid, that's right, they make all that stuff, generated $19.27 billion in net sales, and you're getting paid $35,000 a year.
Dang.
So,
that's crazy.
Yeah, you're getting grossly underpaid.
You're getting screwed by the Wienermobile.
You said it, not me, sister.
Oh.
So that's how we end Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals today.
I'm not sure that was a palate cleanser, but it was funny.
Yeah. And that'll do it.
It is a crime to pay so low.
It is a crime to be paid so low. And that's how we end Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals today. All right. So, reminder, we have a trip coming up here at the beginning of next year.
Yes. It's like 2 weeks away. Not even.
Not even.
Fast. So the first weekend of January, if you want to join me at the Palmer House for a fun weekend, there are tickets available. You can go to my website, jessicafreeberg.com or ghoststoriesinc.com and find tickets there. And you guys get a discount. Darkness 30 gets you 30% off your tickets.
There you go. Yes, so do that right away. Right away. Darkness 30 is the code. And get in it while you can. Folks. Makes a great holiday gift. And there's such a thing as a last minute gift. So go now. It's Christmas Eve. So you've got time. And what you do is you print out the ticket, you put it in a card. There you go. You've got your gift.
Easy peasy.
There you go. All right. I want to thank Mitchel P. Roth for being on the program today. By the way, the book is out there and available now. We have a link in the description of this program. It's called Murder by Mail, A Global History of the Letter Bomb. And we have a link to it in the description of the program, like I said. So go check that out. Tomorrow on the big program, we've got kind of an interesting Christmas program, Jess. We're going to start it off with a little bit of Christmas news. So we've got a couple of Christmas stories, and then we're going to do some Victorian Christmas stories.
Fun.
So Victorian Christmas ghost stories, to be exact. And that is how we're going to spend Christmas with everybody. So we're going to spend Christmas with our Darkness Radio family. So if you happen to not have a place to go for Christmas tomorrow, or you do happen to have a place to go for Christmas tomorrow, and you just want a little Christmas entertainment that doesn't involve Netflix and football, then by gosh, you can spend it with us. And we've got a little paranormal entertainment for you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. There you go. And then Thursday, we're going to end up doing, we're reversing the days this week. Thursday, we'll have some supernatural news for you. So we're just taking and reversing the days. So there you go. How's that sound?
I love it. I'm excited. I can't wait to hear the Victorian Christmas ghost stories.
Oh, scary. Scary stuff. I mean, that used to be the tradition, right? That on Christmas, there were scary stories at that. So we'll scare you a little bit on Christmas this year. And it doesn't involve inflation and toys. So there you go.
It doesn't involve a mobile wiener.
Yes, and it doesn't involve a mobile wiener. So there you go. So everybody get to bed early tonight. Wait for Santa. Hope he gets lots of good gifts. And then we'll see you back here tomorrow. And we'll have lots of scary stories. How's that sound?
I'm ready for it.
All right, good deal. All right, so for Jessica Freeberger, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for tuning in today for the best in true crime podcasting. This has been True Crime Tuesday.